Your New Orleans Pelicans are 24-17, 41 games in. Let's have a little recap. We live, by the way. Let's get into it.
First took away. That's the best. Get your money's worth out.
We are live here. Welcome to another episode here of Pro Pills Talk. I am your host today, Chris Connor. If you are looking for light-skinned Jermaine, he is celebrating MLK Day a day late, watching Herb Jones Eurostep footage. I got my dog Chaz with me, got the homie Ross with me. We got a good show for y'all here today, man. We're gonna talk about the Pelicans 41 games in. We're gonna get to your comments. We're gonna talk a little bit of there's some news here about a possible trade that's about to take place between the Raptors and the Pacers. We're gonna talk CJ McCollum. We got some B.I. Zion conversation. Sail high on a few different characters. Jordan Hawkins, Jose Alvarado. We got it all. Brought to you here, of course, by our injury lawyers here, the official injury lawyers at Pro Pills Talk, Birdsall Law Firm. Let's get into it. Fellas, how y'all doing?
Trying to stay warm, man. I guess I can't really tell you. I can't tell y'all that. But y'all know for us, it's cold, bro.
It's real where we at. It's real serious.
That's true. I guess I shouldn't have mentioned that to you guys. I got to save that for a more southern crowd.
Tackle that like button, y'all. You know, when I'm hosting the show, we gonna say tackle that like button. We not talking on. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, chat. Y'all do y'all thing. But yo, man, let's get into it. So first thing here, the Pelicans 41 games in. I think that there is, you could call it a roller coaster if you want to here. You can talk about, there's some positives, there's some negatives, but overall they're on pace. I think, if they're consistent with the way they started or where they're at with 41 games, then you're talking about a team that can win close to 50 games. And I mean, all things considered, I would consider that a win depending on where they finish at. Which would be a jumbled Western Conference. Kings won 48, 45 and finished third seed, somewhere around that. But all in all, Ross, I'll start with you. Where are you at? And if you want to give your thoughts about the Dallas game, going into game 41, but where are you at with this team is at 41 games in? Are you surprised? Are you optimistic? Are you disappointed? What are your thoughts right now?
Yeah, the irony is I'm like all of those things. I think before the season, most of us had us in that 48 win. I think I'd have to go back and watch it, but I think I had us at 48 wins. I feel like we all were somewhere in that like 45 to 50 range, right? So from that perspective, great. We're right on pace for that. I think that's like where this team probably should fall. The optimistic part is health, right? Like for the most part, we have got halfway through the year, avoided I don't have any wood around here, but knock on wood, avoided the major injury bug. Zion appears to be getting like healthier, or at least, I thought he's looked more explosive these last handful of games. CJ has played, I think, as good as we've seen him play in years. He seems to be healthier than ever. Same goes for Larry Nance. So like from that perspective, I don't know, I'm very happy with where they're at. Obviously there's still that inconsistency with this team. That's the frustrating part. But overall, I think it's just been like an okay first half, right? Like they didn't blow me away. I think they've done the things they're supposed to do, and they stayed healthy. And I think that was really the most important thing.
Shout out to all the people here in the chat. Please continue to leave comments. We're gonna post them throughout the show. Chaz, Enterprise here, 12:30. Appreciate you, bro. Puts up here. He says 50 wins is totally possible. What are your thoughts, Chaz, about where this team is? 41 games in. I believe in the beginning of the year, dating even around preseason, you said 50 wins was a possibility. Do you think 50 wins is still a possibility, and would you consider that a success?
Man, I said some wild shit in the offseason now that I think about it. I said 10 assists. But yeah. I do think 50 wins is a possibility, just because I feel like when you see the level of play you're getting from, and this is pending no moves. You see the level of play you're getting from a Hawkins when he gets minutes. When you see the level of play consistency, shout out to Falon, shout out to everybody in the chat, 50 Tiger, everybody, all the regulars, man. Shout out to Rick. Well, I definitely think it's possible because you look at the consistency you see night in, night out from a player like JV. Most nights, Zion seems to be trending in the right direction. Herb Jones has been, going through a pretty hot streak, shooting the ball right now. Najee's corner threes come along. It seems like the sum of your parts can will you to 50 wins, much like in that Byron Scott year with Chris Paul, and they won those 50 games, and you're like, yo, this is a hell of a team. So it kind of negated some of Byron Scott's shortcomings because the talent. Chris Paul was so great, David West was so great, Paxton Chandler was so great at that time. And I think with this team, that's what you're seeing. To Ross's point, as good as they're doing right now, and you drop 7-8 games in the clutch, saying you lose to the Bulls, you drop a couple to the Jazz when they weren't trying to win. You lose 2 games to Memphis in devastating fashion. There was a lot of money left on the table still. That's the crazy part about it.
Yeah, I mean, and what's interesting is, and Ross, I'm curious. I'll pass it back to you here. We've been trying to figure out, dating back to Gail Benson's comments years ago, and David Griffin supporting that theory about what it's going to take for this team to pay the tax. I mean, paying the tax now, but go deep into the tax to really, really go for something beyond just a quick playoff appearance. If you were Gail, or if you were someone that could make that call for this franchise, considering where they're at, the investments that are currently here, what do you think the barometer would be at for you in regards to figuring out when it's time to go for it? Do you think that they're there right now, as the trade deadline will be here before we know it?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a good question. And it's always easier to talk with somebody else's money, right? But it's for me, I base everything off the Zion window, right? Because I have a lot of questions about how good Zion Williamson is going to be in, let's say, year 10 of his career. I just don't, the style of play, the stress it puts on, his knees and ankles and things like I just have always had even from the day we drafted him, a lot of questions about what does that longevity look like in terms of an 8, 10, 15-year career for a player that plays like that. And look, I may be totally wrong. Maybe the dude plays for 15 years and has a Hall of Fame career. I don't know. But my opinion would be you've got to maximize your potential in the years where he is healthy and playing well. And for me, that it's starting to look like that again. So, I mean, with the wide open West, the Timberwolves somehow are still in first place and winning games. They don't blow me away. This feels like a year where you maybe are a move away. You don't even have to go deep into the tax. But I still think you're still probably a player away from going from maybe you win a first round series type thing to, hey, I think we can compete in a Western Conference semifinal, maybe get to a Western Conference final. And then who knows, right? The Heat have, they're better coached than we are, but the Heat have had teams that I didn't think were otherworldly that have gone to the NBA finals now a few times in the last handful of years. So for me, it's not about being able to sit here and say, we're one player away from winning the title. I don't think there's any way we'd be able to say that, but I do think there are moves or many moves that you wouldn't have to go super deep into the tax to make, that could put you in that conversation for getting to a Western Conference final. And that to me is the goal. Can you get to a point where you can comfortably say, this team should win a first round series, compete in a second round series, and then, hey, look, just give yourself a chance. And I think we're there. I really do. I mean, if a projected 48 win team isn't enough for you to invest a little more into the roster, then what are you waiting on, right? What's the point of owning the team? I guess is where I'm at.
So Chaz, I'm gonna read off some team stats for you right now.
All right.
Pelicans right now are 12th in the NBA in points per game, halfway in. 11th in opponent points per game. According to strength of schedule, it looks like they've had the seventh toughest schedule, 41 games
Yeah.
in. Offensive rating 12th, defensive rating 9th, puts them at a net rating of about 8 overall. That puts you in a group of around a lot of good teams. But I'm asking you this question specifically because we talked about something specifically in the chat about half court efficiency. And another stat that was put out that ranked the Pelicans, I think, 8th in half court efficiency that really kind of threw us all for a loop. I think we all were expecting, we're talking about half court somewhere in the middle of the pack. Seeing 8th was kind of encouraging with some of the things that they've had to figure out. What do you specifically think? What do you think about some of the statistical, I guess, areas that the team is at right now? Does any of these things surprise you? Is there like something that maybe concerns you, something that's fool's gold, or something that gives you optimism for what they can continue to build on the second half of the year?
I think the thing that concerns me mostly is I have to check, but if they're still averaging like 80 plus shot attempts, like between 80 and 88 shot attempts, to me that's concerning because that to me that kind of negates the efficiency of the offense. It's kind of like a person who takes 2 3-point shots a game. If he makes one and misses the other one, he's a 50% shooter. He only took 2 shots. So if the Pelicans are taking a limited number of shots, it's probably not necessarily translating the way we would like it to. And it's also what kind of shots are you taking? Like, inefficient 2-pointer counts for 2 points, you know what I'm saying, whether it's a bad shot or not, need to be taking more threes. Those 3-point attempts need to be up more. This is, the modern NBA. Someone made a great point to me earlier. They were saying, think about game-winning shots in the modern NBA. How many of them are 2-point shots? Like during the regular season, and the only 2 shots I could think of were Ja beating the Pelicans. That's the only 2 shots I could think of. But aside from that, I'll say this, it's trending in the right direction. And so if you want to focus on the positives, I do think it's trending in the right direction, and you're able to win in spite of some of these things. But if you want to go up to that next level, you want to be that team that's consistently dropping 120, 130, you know what I'm saying, playing taking the right shots, you know what I'm saying, not just taking shots, taking the right shots, making the right shots. I'd rather have a team that's 35% from 3 than a team that's 40% from 2. You know what I'm saying? It's just about how that efficiency is being counted. So if the attempts are still in the 80s, that's a bit concerning. But either way, I'm glad they're making their shots. I'll say that. And this last streak certainly has a lot to do with that, this last month or so.
I'll tell you the one stat that isn't being picked up. I was really surprised to hear some of the stuff that you listed off, that just kind of where the Pelicans fell. Some of it's surprising, some of it isn't. But the one thing not captured there that I would like to see is what do those crunch time stats look like? Last 5 minutes, last 4 minutes of games. For me, that's where we've been just horrible. Awful. God awful. If you were even league average. If you were league average and during that time frame, you might be on a 50, 51, 52 game, pace. When you think about some of the game, because I guess I expect those things to equal out, right? But it feels like we're heavily on one side of that, right? Like we've lost way more of those games that are kind of like, you're down 6 with 5 minutes left, 8, 5, those type of. We've lost all of them. And if you can go ahead, Chris, if you can switch some of that, though, that feels like a huge tipping point for me for how the season could go on the back half.
Yeah, because we're talking about, they're 0-6, 0-7 in games decided by 3 points or less. I don't know if
is it 0-8 now because of yesterday.
I don't remember. I think it was either 0-6 and went to 0-7, but Nah, they lost by 5 against Dallas
Yeah.
yesterday. So, and even let's say that I'm missing a game and they have a win that I'm not remembering. We know that they've had troubles in closing games. Even there was one stretch where it felt like 5-6 games in a row. Then they went on a little streak, and then you got it's creeping back up again. And then I'm glad you brought that up, Ross, because that's not the only worrisome I think element of this team. We talked about a lot of positives so far, but if you had to guess, Ross, Chaz, I want you guys both to guess. What do you guys think that the Pelicans rank as a team in free throw percentage?
I say mid-20s.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's like a silver lining there. I mean, it's CJ's not really a great free throw shooter for as well as he shot the ball this year, and Zion has been not great either.
Yeah.
I would say somewhere in the 20s, yeah, but definitely in the bottom third.
Well, they're 24th. So Chaz, you right there. So when we start talking about this team in closing games, that's a big element that I don't like. I mean, look, Jason Kidd decided in a 2-point game to foul Zion Williamson as soon as he had the basketball, with the Pelicans having a chance to tie or take the lead late. That should tell you all you need to know about where this team is at. He splits the free throws. They end up losing the game. But it's not just him that's missed free throws late in the clutch. This Trey Murphy missed 2. I don't think I've ever seen him miss 2 in a row. Right? We've seen CJ in some periods. They've left food, for lack of better explanation, on the table.
Right.
But let's move forward here to my favorite subject here of this show. This is sell high. Sell high. Now look, I know some of y'all in the comments before and afterwards, y'all call us propels trade talk. I didn't see that. I didn't see that. That's great.
I never saw that. Yeah,
I hadn't seen that. That is good. That's good.
I might be making it up, but hey, look propels trade talk. It is now.
Not bad.
I think that this is a really good discussion, man. Because when we talk about selling high, I think that the main part, at least, and you guys can tell me, some other players, of course. The first person I think of right now is Jonas Valanciunas. And that's the tough part because, an average, a fan that, maybe, just tied into certain players that are on the team, or maybe just an average watcher or just getting into it now, they say, well, this guy's playing really well right now. He's due up for an extension. You have guys that are often injured. Why would you trade him? And, I think that this is the perfect time to really go into the discussion. I mean, how often has the Pelicans even been in a situation to where you can say that they will 100% should be buyers and have assets that you would look at? They shouldn't have to attach something to somebody may want because of the production that they're having right now. And Jonas falls into that category, as we've been talking about the center position for quite some time, playing some of I think arguably the best basketball as a Pelican. But when we're talking about styles, when we're talking about spacing, when we're talking about defensive, situations, playoffs down the line. And I mean, Chaz, we got a chance yesterday to see, maybe not in regards to how the Mavericks tried to take advantage of Jonas, but simply not even that Derek Lively outworked him. He just out athleticism him. I mean, he just rebounds that were right there for Jonas. You used to him get in. Derek Lively got him. And it happened. It was one stretch where it was like 3 rebounds in a row. To you, what does it mean to sell high? And who do you think should be on that list of sell high targets and why?
I think, you know what? I'm going to give Jonas some bail because everybody else got excuses. I'm going to say Jonas ain't been missing no games this season. The man just went, bar for bar with Jokic, showed up, dominated Keebler and dominated Dwight Powell, dominated those beige brothers, then showed up and he took a loss. He took a loss to Lively. Lively is a hell of an athlete. JV ain't taking no games off. So I'm gonna give JV some bail. I'm gonna say JV probably was tired. JV probably was a little tired. But he would a player that I would say fits the criteria of selling high is a guy who you think has maximized his potential as far as or maximize his play during the season. Do you like if you would really have to ask, do you think JV plays any better than he's playing now, on top of the fact that JV is an expiring contract, so his value isn't gonna get any higher. In fact, the closer you get to the deadline, his value is going to begin to decrease, because now if you don't move him, you either forced to overpay him or you forced to lose him for nothing virtually in the off season. I think another shout out to my dog E. I think another person, is Larry Nance. So Larry Nance, he took a sensu bean. You know what I'm saying? He's he's as good as ever gonna get. I'm like, bro, you gotta. I think a lot of people just don't necessarily get it. You don't want to trade a guy when he's playing terribly or if he's coming off of an injury. You want to maximize his value, or you could find yourself in a Siakam situation, whereas Siakam, with a year left on his contract expiring next year, is a much more attractive trade asset than he is as an expiring guy who's not going to re-sign with the team that trades for him, supposedly. You're saying he's a year older. He's not having his greatest year. I think you got to take advantage of the assets you do have, because this team doesn't have a lot of avenues to get better. You're not a free agent destination. Even if you were drafting guys, you're not necessarily playing your young guys. You don't have the coaching advantage going into most games. And to Ross's point, the West is kind of weak. Not weak, but the West is gettable. The West is gettable. You know what I'm saying? You're one injury, prolonged injury to a big dog in the West, to it just being a toss-up virtually in the West. So I think, some of these guys, they're playing the best ball they can play now. Some of them are expiring. Get them out of here. Get them out of here.
So Ross, Jonas is currently to support those that would say he's not the problem. They need to, the Pelicans need to find a way around Jonas to add what they're lacking. He is currently, having his most, well, he's on track right now of putting together one of his, if not his most efficient season offensively. I think he's averaging like almost close to 2.5 assists. He's giving, he's on the way to averaging the most blocks that he's given, or that he's averaged for a career right now. The points haven't really fell off. And you see the sacrifice that he's putting out there. And he is the most durable guy, the guy that you can pencil in no matter what's going on the court or off the court. However, we've been talking about it for a while, and I just did a show about it recently. The team could use a rim protector, and they've been needing a rim protector for quite some time. First of all, I mean, I was thinking the other day, the last rim protector that played, of course, Anthony Davis, but outside of that, I mean, are we talking about
Chandler?
Omer Asik? Are we talking about Emeka Okafor?
Okafor, Tyson Chandler. Because Asik was more of a he wasn't really like a true rim protector in that. He's just like
big,
right. But we're big, as you would say, a lumbering kid. But they need a rim protector. And my thing is this, Ross, to Chaz's point, and for anyone in the comments to say we don't need, if you want to add people and you think the team could use something, but you don't want to get rid of any of the players here, well, you already have a minutes logjam of sorts as is. I don't foresee a way, Ross, where this team, let's say they kept Larry and they kept Jonas and they added a rim protecting big. I don't think that there's a way that they're going to play three center position type of players night to night. I just don't see that happening. You know what I'm saying? So, and wouldn't you argue that Jonas is probably up for a raise? You already have some other contractual situations that you have to address here real soon. Where are you at on the Jonas Valanciunas situation and what the team should do? Or is it someone else that you're keying in on selling high?
Yeah, there's two parts to my answer, and the Jonas one is interesting for me because I agree and I disagree with you guys, and obviously a lot of people in the comments, is that it's one of those deals where like Jonas is more valuable to us than he is to anyone else in the NBA. Like I value what he brings because he plays every game. He's tough. He's physical. We don't really have, a super physical team. And he just plays every game. But if you start looking around the league, what team or what organization is going to look at Jonas, especially half a season of Jonas, as an upgrade over what they have, right? Like just real simple. I got the East right here, so I'll just go through it. Boston. I mean, and obviously these aren't trade partners, but I'm just saying it's an exercise to help you understand like other teams probably don't see Jonas the way we see him. Boston, Porzingis and Horford. They're not going to see Jonas as an upgrade. Milwaukee, Brook Lopez, Giannis plays a bunch of center. Philly, Embiid, Paul Reed. Cleveland, Jared Allen and Mobley plays a ton of center, right? Like Miami, Bam, Indy, Miles Turner, New York. The Hartenstein guy's playing great. Mitchell Robinson's fine. It's not that Chicago, Vucevic. You can go all the way down the list. And whether we think those guys are better than Jonas or it doesn't matter. But like most organizations aren't going to say, yeah, let me get 2 months of Jonas Valanciunas. That's going to be a big upgrade over what I have. It's just not true. I mean, it's not disrespectful to Jonas. It's just reality. And so for me, I don't really see him as like a sell high candidate. Like I think he's more valuable to us than he would be to anyone else. I really don't think you'd get shit for him, to be totally honest. That would make a difference. So unless it's something where you're like, you need his salary to match to get some kind of bigger deal done, sure. But otherwise, he's not the direction I would go just because I just don't know how much value he's going to have in the league. I think there's really only two like logical people that would fall into a traditional like sell high conversation based on where we are today. Larry is playing, I think, better than he's played in years. He's healthier than he's been in years. He would probably fall into somebody that you could sell high on. And the other is Jordan Hawkins, who like we probably don't want to sell high on, but he's a guy that you could sell high. Like who else right now would you say is at their value really can't get any higher than it is today, or that we would reasonably trade? Like no one. I mean, CJ's playing great, but like we're not trading CJ, so it's pointless to include him, at least in my opinion. So I think if you're going to do anything, it's probably time, for Larry, just because of how it's a compliment. Like I think he's playing that well that you actually could get somebody might value him, and his salary works, I think, to do some things. But yeah, I don't. It's a weird year, because who do we want to get rid of, right? Like who if you were going to sell high, like what are you looking for in return? Do you really want to move that player, right? Like Dyson. Sometimes people fall into that, like but Dyson's not playing that. Like I think his value can get higher. I really do. Like I don't. So I don't know. I guess that's my long-winded response.
Gotcha. And I think maybe towards the end of the show, we'll get back into this topic a little bit, but mainly talking about trade topics as it looks like, as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, the first, I think, large domino, I guess you could say OG Anunoby and RJ Barrett had some kind of importance. So, maybe the second trade domino fall here before things get really interesting, which is odd because in basketball, in the NBA, the deadline is when you really get a little crazy. It's,
And look, hey, my man Rick just said it too. The other guy that would probably fall into a traditional sell high conversation would be Herb. Like probably not a guy we want to get rid of on a team friendly contract, but like Herb's value league wide continues to ascend.
Through the roof. Yeah.
I mean, is Herb really going to get that much better? I don't know, but he's super valuable to us, right? Like I'm not saying go trade him, but I'm saying if you were going to sell high on somebody, like that's a dude you could sell really high on because he's, everybody needs a Herb Jones.
Man. Yeah, I'm not looking to trade Herb Jones, but I think something dropped recently about his contract being eligible to trade very soon. I don't remember the exact date.
I think it was this week. I think it crossed. Yeah, I think it just became eligible. I mean, we're not, but that's what I'm saying. It's like you're not trading Herb Jones unless you're getting something just absurd.
All right. Once again, guys, please tackle the like button. You know what I mean? Leave comments. I don't know
Come
how
on,
many
Chris.
likes
I
we
know you
have
want
right
to say
now.
it.
I'm not.
I
I
know you want
don't.
to say it.
I don't. Please
Smash that
tackle
thing,
that like
man.
button. That's
Oh
insane.
man.
Tackle that like button. You know what I mean? We're gonna move forward here to some all-star talk. Now, this is interesting because no one on the Pelicans right now, I would say as an individual, has I would say no one right now as an individual, when you look at the Western Conference, I don't know if I'd make them an all-star right now. Not Zion, not Brandon, not even CJ. That's just me personally. If I was a fan, if I was voting. However, as the team continues to win, and if they continue to creep up the Western Conference, people speak glowingly about this team. Outsiders, a lot of them. I mean, they do. They speak glowingly. That is insane, Rodney.
That's the wildest shit I
That is
ever read.
that
That's a
comment deserves to
wild
be
comment.
That's the
flagged.
wildest shit I ever read. Go ahead.
But if I was voting for somebody, just as an appreciation vote, it would be CJ McCollum. Currently, right now, I believe he's playing the lowest minutes. He's on track to play the lowest minutes of his career. He's shooting the least amount of shots of his career. We talked about the sacrifice that Jonas puts in day in, day night. Maybe nobody has sacrificed more since he's gotten to New Orleans than CJ. He's changed his game more, and he's talked about it, shooting a ridiculous amount of threes. But while he's raised the amount of threes he's putting up, he's shooting it at like a 45% clip, which is insane. He's changed his shot profile for the benefit of his teammates and what his co-stars, what the other people in the big three of sorts like to do. And you can throw Jonas in there as well as someone who lives around the paint. Not turning the ball over a lot, which I don't think a lot of people are talking about. He's only averaging I think a turnover and a half a game. His free throw percentage is close to 80%, which will be the highest in 4 years. He's active, defensively. You'll see him get a few steals, and I think he's giving you everything you could really ask for a dude that's a number 3 option right now on his team. Chaz, where are you at in regards to CJ McCollum, the first half that he's had, and do you think what would be the scenario for you where you would say he deserves to get some all-star recognition?
I think CJ prior to his injury was well on his way to being in high consideration for an all-star reserve, given that the guard play in the West is just astronomical right now. Like, it's just, you got Shea averaging 30, Fox, I don't know if he's still averaging 30, but he was. Luka averaging 30, Kyrie, you know what I'm saying? Then you got the name recognition of some of those guys. But I thought CJ was certainly a candidate for some all-star reserve consideration. Probably should have been an all-star reserve at some point in his career. I this all season we had a show about CJ, and talked about how he kind of got a bad rap last season because he was playing through injury, but right now still shooting over 40% from 3, if I'm not mistaken, on a good number of attempts, setting records. You know what I'm saying? Second year in a row setting records, if I'm not mistaken, for the Pelicans. Like, the dude's just been the consummate professional. Came into the NBA season tremendous shape, bounced back from a scary injury. To me, has been the most consistent starter of that max trio. In my opinion, the second most important starter in that starting unit. I think you see a totally different team without CJ, just because you're removing CJ from that starting unit. You have no shooters in the starting unit, none. So that, you think it's clunky and crazy looking now. Imagine CJ out of that starting unit. Like, what I'm saying? It would be crazy. And, even his wherewithal, knowing when to get to the line, how to draw contact, handle is still phenomenal. Like, crazy handle, still crossing people up in transition, making some nice passes, averaging about 5 assists, if I'm not mistaken, 4 or 5 assists. That's what, second highest on the team right now, probably. Like, that's incredible. Good rebounding. Like, he's really embraced that elder statesman role. And I think, especially on his contract, he's doing this thing, having a great year.
Ross?
Yeah, no, I'm in. I think he's. I think if we have a shot to get anybody, when you look at the top 10 players in 3-point percentage in the NBA right now, it's a clear. First off, of the everybody in the top 10, he's by far the most attempts, 2 or 3 more attempts than the next closest person. So you're talking about elite volume, shooting over 44%. So for me, it's like, when you're talking about a non-role player, I'm talking about, a Malik Beasley or whatever. I think Grayson Allen's in there. You're talking about guys who literally are just standing out there, really no responsibility other than just, hey, your only job is to make wide open threes. That's clearly, CJ clearly has a bigger role in that for us. So when you look at that kind of top 10 of elite 3-point shooters right now, it's CJ McCollum and Kevin Durant. I mean, like, that's it. Like, everybody else in that group is just shooters. So look, you guys have hit all the points. I think he's got a fair resume to, that certainly would be warranted when you look at other people. I mean, Jalen Brunson last year was an all-star. The numbers he was putting up aren't that much better than what CJ's doing right now, maybe a couple points a game. But I think he's got a fair resume, and I'd like to see him get in, but it's a long shot.
Yeah, I mean, I think this might, for this team this year, Zion could always, and we'll talk about some Zion Brandon stuff in a little bit here, but Zion's always a candidate, especially if he continues to trend upwards as he's been the past few games, and just how he's physically looked on the floor. But I think the Pelicans could be in a situation like the Atlanta Hawks were a few years ago, where they got in a few different guys that maybe didn't deserve as individuals to make an all-star team, but they were winning a bunch of basketball games, and it was noticeable enough. Now, I think the difference then is that they were number one in the East. I don't think the Pelicans will be able to get to number one in the East, but if you start talking about them possibly, if they go on another streak here and they pass the Clippers, or they get closer to Denver, you're talking about 3 or 4 seed. I think that they probably should have someone in the All-Star game. And if it's not Zion, if it's not Brandon, it's Chaz has said it before, when you talk about MVPs of the first half of this season, CJ's one of the guys. I mean, he's been that individual. He's been the constant. He's been the consistent. He's sacrificed, but he's also delivered and performed in ways that I'm not sure if everyone really expected coming in, with some of the things that people had to say about him last year.
Chris, I'm glad you said that, because it's really the silver lining when you start talking about some of these awards. A lot, the big one, right, is Herb Jones being first team all defense. Everybody wants that one. When you start talking about awards, all-star games, stuff like that, that's where the wins matter. And when you look back and we're 0-8 in close games, if you were sitting here with 26, 27, 28 wins instead of 24, and you were maybe a 1 or 2 seed, well, yeah, now those resumes all start to look better for the exact reason you just said. Because like, oh, damn, this team's sitting number 1 in the West. Like, even though this player might not have the same counting stats as some other player, well, but his team's winning every damn game. So let's reward that guy. So that's kind of the frustrating part about some of those games we've lost, is I think it ultimately hurts you when you start looking at some of these awards and things you want for individual players.
All right, guys. Well, we're gonna go into a little bit of Zion and Brandon talking, but before that, for all the Live Move fans here in the chat, I know how much I love her. Let's hear from DraftKings.
DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL playoffs, is bringing you an offer that'll help make the playoffs electrifying. New customers can bet $5 on any game and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code BOOT. New customers can bet just $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code BOOT. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/basketball terms.
That was like Jermaine, our bill collector, once again, still watching Herb Jones Euro step tape. Shout out to him.
Matt
Shout out
Ryan,
to-
Matt Ryan shooting drills.
yeah, yeah,
Added that to
a
his
little
list.
a little bit of Cody Zeller. You know what I mean? He's making the time. He's making the time worth it. Shout out to Lito as well in the chat on baby duty. Trying to be in the comments with the infant in his hands. Shout out to you, my brother. Brandon Zion. I don't have a border or an overlay here for it, but we did want to talk a little bit about the two best rated players here currently on the New Orleans Pelicans. We want to talk about BI and Zion. So currently, right now, I don't have the stats in front of me, but let's just keep it within this box. Zion right now physically looks different. David Griffin, I believe, was quoted the other day, might have been a Denver game, saying that Zion has been saying he's about 2 weeks away from really feeling like Zion again. I know you guys love that quote, but it matches. but what I'm seeing, it matches it, and the way that the team is using him, and at least offensively. Some of the things that I've seen some dribbling instances from him that I haven't seen. He had a really nice finish at the rim, a nice little double cross. I forget who was guarding him and finished at the rim.
That might have been Powell, wasn't it? That was crazy.
Might have been had Powell touching ground there. It was but he looks like right now he's trending upwards of sorts. It looks like he's trending back towards the guy that everyone's favored and was, we would talk about MVP candidate last December before he got hurt. And then we have Brandon Ingram right now, who is currently, I think after the Dallas game, that was the 8th game in a row where he hadn't scored 20 points, which I don't think he's done since he was in Los Angeles. I don't remember the exact year, but it's been a while since Brandon has been this long without scoring 20 points. Don't know if he's hurt. Don't know if he's, if it's just a bad stretch. Don't know if it's a bad strand. What exactly is going on? But Brandon is going through a little bit of a rut. So one person's trending up, one person trending down. Ross, where are you at with them going into the second half? Are you concerned about either or player? Any optimism there about where Brandon's at right now and where Zion's at?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of optimism around where Zion is. I mean, other than that one season, again, you're talking about health. He certainly has looked different, right, the last few games. I mean, I think even Antonio Daniels seems like he says that a lot during the games. Like Zion has that bounce. I think is the way he keeps referring to it. So all good on that side. I'd love to see him make more free throws. But I think the thing I've seen most of him that you don't see whenever he's sort of not himself, whatever that is some of the stuff he's doing on defense. Like he seems to be contesting a lot more plays from the weak side. He's trying to block shots that whenever he's out of shape or whatever it is, he's either not getting there in time or he doesn't even jump. I feel like just in these last couple in that Dallas game, I mean, you see him coming from the weak side and kind of contesting shots in a way that you just hadn't seen. So I'm all good on the Zion side. I thought the Brandon thing has been really surprising because I feel like that 2-week stretch he had before this last week, kind of before we went on the road, I thought was maybe the best 2-week stretch I had seen. I'd like that Brandon had played for us. I really did. And I think we all came on here and were super complimentary. He was finding his teammates. Remember, his defensive activity had just totally ramped up in a way that I really hadn't seen in the year he was here. So, I'm tempted to kind of just chalk this up for Brandon as a bad couple games. Maybe a small injury that we're not aware of. Who knows, right? It's also just the middle of the season. Like you got to dog days of the NBA season. I really, I'm tempted to just say that, but only because that 2 or 3 week run he went on right before this was the most impressive I had seen Brandon really pretty much in his entire time in New Orleans. I just thought he was playing the most complete basketball I'd seen. So I'm going to give some grace here and say I don't have a lot of pessimism. I think the fact that both guys are healthy right now is unquestionably the biggest cause for optimism. And I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't want to go too deep into this.
Yo, and look, I mean, when you say when you yeah, that's a little yeah, it's a little. I mean, when you say dog days of the season was interesting. We haven't talked about this a lot here. Brandon's played 37 games. I mean, he's only missed 4, right? Which, I mean, he played 45 last season. Like that puts a lot of perspective. He played 45 games last season. We're halfway in, and Brandon's played 37. So, hey man, it could be, he's not used to playing this amount of games in a stretch here, specifically since he's been in New Orleans. He's on track to play the most games for sure since his rookie year. And then you pile in. I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses, but you throw in the Olympic time as well. That's a lot of miles for a dude that's not used to playing this amount of games over the past few years. But regardless, I do agree with Ross. While he is struggling offensively, and maybe that could be with the style of the situation and attributing to what we're seeing from Zion right now, adjusting. But I will say I do agree that he's been playing some of the best defensive basketball that I have seen from him, at least on that effort side. I see some level of sacrifice from him, but they have to figure out, and he has to figure out one way or another in the second half of the season. There's going to have to be some type of balance. You're not going to be able to beat really good teams with Brandon scoring 15, 17, 19 points per game and him not rebounding the basketball well and only having 5 sets. Like, he's going to have to be either an extraordinary playmaker or he's going to have to be scoring the basketball. So whatever is going on right now, hopefully, we can see some type of change. But hand this over here to Chaz. Chaz, where are you at? I mean, I want to hear your thoughts on Brandon.
Right.
But what do you see in regards to Zion? Like, how close do you think he is to the dude that we saw in December last season?
I truthfully think he's more than 2 weeks. I don't know where the fuck that arbitrary number comes from. Just because I think his defense has been commendable. I think his defense has been borderline impressive. I haven't seen him like out of position too often. Really solid contests, getting some deflections, couple solid blocks here and there where he's kind of getting up there for him. But yet and still, it's like, bro, I need more than one rebound from you. You know what I'm saying? I just need a little more attention to detail on some of the smaller things. You know what I'm saying? Zion's having a career bad year for him. But it's funny because that's why I'm so hesitant to compliment him specifically, because you have a high floor. Like, you know what I'm saying? Your floor is incredible. Like, you know what I'm saying? For as, bad as you've been throughout this season, as out of shape as you've been throughout this season, even in that game where the infamous in-season tournament, this motherfucker was still one of the best players out there for the Pelicans. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's how crazy his floor is. And he looked like he got off the plane and got dressed and on the court. Like, he looked totally unprepared for the situation. And I think one thing that shows you that his conditioning is getting there is that he's still keeping the same offensive burst late in games. And I think that's kind of a testament to all right, you're starting to kind of see that person, you know what I'm saying? But it's still smaller things that he needs to do that can take him to the next level, because competition is serious in the West this year. Like that, even Zion 2 years ago with the 27, whatever he had, like that was cool. But now you got dudes averaging 30. You got, Sabonis triple doubles every night. Like, you know what I'm saying? The bar has to be MVP conversation for a talent like Zion. But, you still give him some time. You're hoping that it's trending in the right direction. For Brandon, and let me start with Brandon's my brother, and I really wish the best for Brandon. Like I want this dude to succeed. But let me go to a few of these points before I go where I'm going with this. All right, shout out to Space African Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Shout again,
Jesus.
Right? But wait, there's more, right?
Wow.
And if I'm not mistaken, the Pelicans
Wow.
are like 7-4 when Brandon takes about 12 shots. And so let's go to the numbers here. Brandon's still leading the team in field goal attempts, right? Brandon is shooting, he's averaging about 3-3-pointers a game, shooting 34%. That's awful. Especially when it's been made a point of emphasis for you to take more threes, right? And even as bad as those numbers seem, those numbers are actually a lot worse when you take into consideration, okay, if a guy goes 1 for 2, that's 50%. So that's going to boost his statistics because he's not really taking enough threes for you to really scale them. Shooting a Pelicans career low from the free throw line, shooting a Pelicans career low free throw attempts. For the people who saying he's contributing in other areas, he's only averaging about 5.4 assists. That's the lowest it's been in the last 3 years as a Pelican. Take into consideration that CJ is averaging about 5. You know what I'm saying? Brandon's averaging 4 rebounds a game right now, 0.5 blocks, only 2 turnovers, 21 points. That's not good. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's not necessarily incredibly effective. Not to mention, this is a contract year. This is a contract year. Like, you know what I'm saying? This is the year that will ultimately decide if you get paid that big money. To digress a bit to our sell high conversation, that's what annoys me about the discourse surrounding trading Brandon this offseason, because this almost was Brandon's usage. I would have to go back and see, but he's shooting the most. I think he has the longest time of possession with the ball on the team, and he has the most field goal attempts. So I would presume that he has the highest usage or second highest usage, right? Even with those blowouts recently, because I saw a couple people allude to the fact that some of the Pelicans wins have been blowouts. So Brandon has been sitting. No, Brandon doesn't sit to like the fourth quarter, and he's still averaging 30 minutes in those blowouts. He's not contributing to those blowouts. It's not like Brandon's out there. Like, some guys have 22 points in the first quarter in a blowout and just sit, float the rest of the game. And they spend the rest of the game getting rebounds and assists. Brandon's playing terrible. And I would say when you talk about paying a guy, because if the contract wasn't necessarily a part of the conversation, you probably would cut him more slack. But the fact that the money is a big part of the equation, and this is his own words, Brandon said, I'm trying to get paid. That was his words during media day. And there's been no effort being made to that. And I would say this isn't his first bad stretch of the season. There have been several instances. Brandon has 10 games, it might be 11 now, where he scored under 16 points or below. He had a 9 turnover game in Charlotte. Max players, superstar players don't have this many single digit. He has 3 single digit games. For as fat and lazy and immature as Zion's been, he doesn't have a single digit game. He doesn't have a 9 turnover game this season. And, the bar is incredibly low to be better than Zion, right? This season, going into this season, the bar was low. It was down there. And it's like, bro, if you couldn't rise to that occasion, what makes me presume that when it is time to enact this extension, that you're going to be going into year 10, that you're going to improve as a 3-point shooter, improve as a shot distributor, improve as a rebounder. Like in the last couple of games specifically, Brandon's been getting killed defensively. Like guys have been handling them pretty bad. So I don't know if it's a conditioning issue, but these numbers are kind of on par with the rest of his career. I would say Brandon had a distinct advantage the last couple of years because he was able to rest while everyone else was playing. So when he was coming back, he had like fresh legs and things of that nature. He was able to finish the season in stride. So the shot profile just, again, someone's mentioned the shot profile. The shot profile just hasn't improved. And to go back to these in closing, look at these numbers. That says to me, like, yo, you ain't really good. We ain't winning when you taking shots. So how do you really contribute to us winning? Like, what do you do? Like, you know what I'm saying? What do you do? You're not out there rebounding. You're not like passing the shit out the ball, really. Like, you know, and it just, you know, the offensive fouls are still a thing. It's just, is Brandon Ingram gonna be worth $40-something million? I would argue that he's overpaid right now. When I see what dudes like Colin Sexton and Lowry doing for $17 million, that annoys the fuck out of me. So you know, it's a very tumultuous situation, and I'm afraid I don't see an end to it, brother. Hold on, Mont Dog, brother. These are Googleable facts. If you want to argue with data, be my guest.
Chaz,
Ross, where you? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so because look, I do agree with a lot of what Chaz said. There's a couple things that I think I disagree with, but I would say the main point of concern for me is the 3-point, like attempts and percentage. That I would say that more than anything else he's done on offense is what concerns me this year. He just doesn't look even really comfortable shooting them. And his volume hasn't gone up. I would say that for me is highly concerning. Having said that, his shot attempts have gone down each month, and he's taking 2 or 3 less shots a game this year than he was last year. To me, that like I can't criticize him for certain things, but then also not point out, like, to me, that's a change. Like, I mean, taking 2 or 3 less shots a game, like that's 2 or 3 shots that are in theory going somewhere else, right? And so I do give him a little credit for that. That points to, you know, because the minutes are the same, like he's out there and he's still, you know, touching the basketball as much or more than anybody else. So I don't know. I think he has made some slight changes to his offensive game. I would still like to see him take way more threes. I would also like to see him make way more threes. But there's still times where the fit with Zion just feels awkward and kind of clunky. And like I said, that combined with the 3-point thing gives me concern. But I do think, I mean, I go back to January, to December, where I do feel like he made an emphasis to pass the ball more. I do feel like he got teammates a little more involved and was doing some of those things that are going to be required of him, you know, absent the contract and everything else, right? Like I'm with you. I'm on record. I think giving Brandon Ingram $40 million a year or more is an outrageous, like, I don't know how anybody could justify that. Even if you love Brandon Ingram, that's an unjustifiable salary for a player who does what he does. But that's different than talking about what he brings to the team when he's playing well right now. And I think if he can continue to do some of the things he was doing in December, that's a player that can be valuable for you this year. We talked about this yesterday. There's no circumstance, though, I think, where I give Brandon Ingram an extension that looks north of $35 million a year or something. I just don't see how that makes any like economic sense.
So, I want to talk about some a specific. I don't know if it's a situation that's creeping up in regards to the rotation or not, between Jordan Hawkins and Jose Alvarado, which will lead us to our final segment as we go back to Propel's trade talk. But before I do that, please, I need you guys to find that like button and tackle it. Wherever it is, if you have not already, please tackle that like button. A lot of y'all in here. Lito keeps consistently heaving up with the likes. Please find a way to tackle that like button. Make it happen. There's not enough likes in here, more than likely. Also, for those, specifically speaking to Chung, that's in love with 5 seconds with Lito, that is insane. I got a surprise for you. Lito's not here. So I have somebody, Ross. Ross is going to read 5 seconds with Lito. It's not Lito. So, you know, Chung, don't think that you were forgotten about. I'm hoping that made your.
It's unfortunate we can't get one of his patented one more things in today, but we'll have to settle for the 5 seconds with Lita.
As long as it does not have an A in it. Let's talk about Jordan Hawkins and let's talk about Jose Alvarado. So it's the dynamic. I've heard some things in regards to it that we can talk about post show, but I don't know how accurate it is. But look,
y'all sign up. One thing, y'all sign up for the membership so y'all can hear some of the shit we can't say on the live show in the membership. Y'all sign up for the membership.
Yeah,
Chris.
Yeah. So, Jose Alvarado, similar to the Warriors game, did not play a single minute yesterday against the Mavericks, and who did was Jordan Hawkins. Now, could that be the elements based off him having a 34-point night in the previous game against the Mavericks? Maybe them liking that matchup and trying to keep that positive momentum going. Who knows? But it also happened in the Warriors game. And ironically, the next game against the Nuggets, Jose plays and Hawkins does not. I'm curious where you guys are at with that particular situation. I know we've talked about it enough, so I don't want to know necessarily who you guys prefer in regards to playing, but I'm curious if you guys are thinking, after seeing the night that Hawkins had and then playing, I know that the joke was we probably won't see him on Monday. Well, we ended up seeing him on Monday. I think for about 20 minutes. Do you guys think that from now Jordan Hawkins is in the rotation to stay, and this team is going to make further accommodations to find him minutes in this rotation? Chaz, I'm gonna start with you and then Ross.
Right. Shout out to Lito. I think you're saying, do I think what they will do?
Yes, what they will do.
I think if you see a situation where the team is a bit flat, I think you'll see Jose probably get a little bit of run. This is kind of spark something, maybe in a very limited role, like go out there and aggravate people. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like a Matthew Dellavedova type role, go out there, kind of just spark and then come sit back down. Like, you know what I mean? I think, I'm not totally confident that Willie is calling the shot on this one. And that being the case, if he's not calling the shot, given some of the things that Griff mentioned recently, I think you see Hawkins out there as more of a focal point. Look, man, the data is there. The data is there with these one shooter lineups, these, super small backcourts. Again, Hawkins was contributing on the boards. Jose does a lot of things as well, as far as getting steals and things like that. But, you have an investment in Hawkins, and I think the team has recognized that you got a rookie with multiple 30-point games against not terrible teams. This isn't 40 points against the Wizards. Like, these are like pretty solid teams that this dude putting up numbers for against. And I think you got to take advantage of that and lean into his development. I think we'll see that moving forward.
Ross?
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm not saying there's no place for Jose. It kind of feels to me like Jose is a home player, like a guy that thrives off the crowd, specific games when you're at home and you need a spark. Like, he's a guy, but just because of the way the fans respond to him, the energy he plays with, he really, it's like having a good relief pitcher, right? Like, it's very situational for me. This isn't really Jose's fault. I actually think this is the best. What's Jose shooting from three this year? 38, 39%. I mean, I kind of feel like this is the best he shot he shot the ball. It's just situational for me. I don't, he just doesn't bring some of the other offensive skills. He certainly doesn't have the, doesn't get the attention that Hawkins gets, especially now. But yeah, I don't think you're going to see Jose play. He's not going to have some guaranteed minutes or a guaranteed role. I think that's been shifted to Hawkins at this point, but you will still see him during certain situations. I think especially at home.
It's very telling to me that Dyson Daniels' minutes have been consistent. And where you expect to see him in the rotation as of late. Najee's minutes have been up and down. Jose's gotten games where he hasn't played at all, and now we're seeing, maybe, we'll have to see how these next few games go, but maybe, it's Jordan Hawkins' time again in the rotation. And it's a very interesting time, where, you got like a guy like Kyra Lewis that's in the G League right now. And, you can only really assume for him to be showcased right now because they are looking to
Thank you,
move.
DB.
Hey, welcome, DB.
D, appreciate you, man. You're gonna hate it in here.
Chris, while you're talking about Dyson, yesterday's game was one of those scenarios where it's you really see the difference for me of like, do you really need, because we always talk about games that fit Dyson, right? Like you would have thought yesterday would have been a situation you run him out there on Kyrie. I thought this is crazy to say. I thought Dyson had an unbelievable defensive game. I thought some of the shots Kyrie hit were unbelievable, where he was defended to the absolute, like the best you can defend somebody, and this dude hit shots. And it's like in those situations, when you see it's a game like that, and Kyrie is hitting those shots because he was hitting them all game, I don't need to see Dyson anymore. Like it's not having the desired effect. And so it really is not. I'm not criticizing Dyson Daniels the way he played yesterday because there were points where I was like, I don't know what you do. I mean, what do you do? Just tell the dude good shot on the way back down the court or something? Because hand in his face, perfectly defended. But this is the NBA we live in. Like a good offensive player is when they get it going, it doesn't matter. So it's those type of games where I would lean more offense instead of sticking with Dyson like they did yesterday, because it just didn't make a difference.
Kyrie Irving and Tim Hardaway Jr., I believe, both finishing the night with 40 points at home there. But we got one more segment left, and we're back here. So, some of the reports in regards to what the Pelicans are after, and the Pelicans are being buyers, they have them attached to a big man, a rim protector specifically, and not even and a scoring guard off the bench that some have described or sourced as a gunner off the bench. Okay. We've seen names. We've seen the regulars. We've seen Jared Allen's name. We've seen as of recent it was Alec Burks, which had us talking in the chat about Alex Burks and maybe Isaiah Stewart. Even if Isaiah Stewart isn't necessarily a prototypical rim protector, he would be something different from what you currently have. Floor spacer, someone who is a physical presence at the rim, even if he isn't going to block 4 shots a game necessarily. But you guys don't have to name necessarily your favorites. But I want a couple of examples. And I don't know what's realistic, but I said this on the show I did with for Lauren, Rocky, and Charles yesterday, which will be out soon, about I look at these GMs as like grocery shoppers. If I was thinking about and Griff, he's a bargain guy. I think as Charles put it, he wants a deal. And I have this conversation with my girl all the time. There's a difference between a sale and a deal. Okay? Griff wants a deal. He's trying to get over. You know what I mean? He don't want something that's just perfectly on sale that's still gonna cost him a lot of money. He wants something that he wants something that nobody else is looking at. And it might be worth this much. He gonna offer you the bare minimum.
They got a dent.
You want a deal.
Right.
Huh? Go ahead.
They got a dent. They got like a dent.
like scratch
a dent.
But man, give me some players, guys, that fit that gunner and rim protector player profile that you're interested in.
This is where the Pelicans cap situation becomes such a huge problem, right? Because now you're talking about from what we know, they don't really have a ton of desire to move on from Larry, right? So that leaves your only options being JV, and you immediately have to replace JV with a big, right? And that's only 15 million. That's like what you pair him with Kyra. I don't know how attractive that pairing is, even if you add draft capital. So now you're looking for teams that, unless you're going to expand it to a 3-team deal, you're looking for teams that have a big and potentially a gunner / backup point guard type situation. So let's say, for Lauren brought up Gafford. Let's say Gafford, for example, right? It's like, all right, does Gafford drastically improve your situation with JV off the floor? Because keep in consideration that you will only have one shooter on the floor, and you removing JV from the equation, that kind of exacerbates. Oh yeah, Josh Giddy. But you were kind of exacerbating the shooting situation, right? Clarkson and Kelsey. I don't know. See, that's why. Oh man, when you keep it in the realm of realism, I kind of think the Pelicans don't do nothing. I think they don't do nothing, because if they really don't want to get rid of Larry, to Ross's point, JV is more valuable here. He's on the expiring. So you would have to find a team that's like in cap hell, that's trying to get some relief for next year, right? And it would have to be someone, appreciate you, X. It would have to be someone that actually fits what you're trying to do. So that really limits like the market for what you're trying to do. And that brings me ultimately to the only way to really improve the Pelicans is you trading Larry or you trading Brandon. And I don't think neither one of them are getting traded really. So I think they might find some kind of around the way to move JV and get somebody that we ultimately end up disappointed in. But it don't have to be this way. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can go out there and go try to get a not that this motherfucker great. Try to get Buddy Hield at him, not that he's awesome or nothing, but you could try to go get Gary Trent Jr. You could try to go get not that he's awesome neither. There's things you could do. Like, I'll just say there's things you could do. You can expand that deal and try to get some stuff. They just don't have that tradable salary right now, though.
Ross, what about you? Who are some of your favorites in a realistic, deal? Specifically targeting a gunner off the bench and a rim protecting big.
Yeah, I think Chaz just said it. I go back to Indiana, and I know I've said a bunch that I'd love to see is Dr. Miles Turner. I think that might be unrealistic now, but I think who is realistic is Isaiah Jackson, who's quietly one of the better shot blockers in the league. Doesn't make much money. If they go get Siakam, and then you still got Miles Turner, and then you got Jarris, the guy they just drafted, and you got Jalen Smith, who's playing okay, and then they seems like they want to keep kind of a small ball forward. So like that could be a team. Isaiah Jackson and Buddy Hield collectively only make $20 million. I think there's a path, pretty clear path that we could carve out about $20 million. That for me, I think is probably the one that sticks out the most. Other than that, you're starting to piece together things from other teams. Colin Sexton would be a great fit, but that doesn't solve your rim protecting. For me, it's Indiana. They seem to have like both the players that we need at a salary that actually we can match. And they're not bringing back Buddy Hield. Like they're not giving him long-term money with where they're at. Isaiah Jackson doesn't have a path to minutes anytime in the near future, or legitimate minutes, starter minutes. I mean, he's a very good bench player, but they seem to be a logical fit for us. Whether we do anything, I lean toward they probably aren't going to do shit. But I think that would be one place to look.
What about Orlando? They're currently in a similar situation right now, playing above what some predicted that they would be right now, and they have, you could argue, even more of an overflow in talent. I've been saying that they had too many guards for a while now. They got Goga playing right now, doing exactly what they need him to do as a starting center. There's not really the same fit that there once was for Wendell Carter. He's been hurt multiple times throughout. Maybe a different role once again could be a fit for him. And then you have a bunch of different guards that you can probably be interested into. Orlando always has them. I don't know if we're talking necessarily Markelle Fultz, but he's a guy coming back from injury that hasn't been playing. And
Or
the way that yeah, I mean those seem like David Griffin kind of moves, which I wouldn't be mad at. What's your thoughts on maybe looking at Orlando?
I don't think it's a bad place to look. Look, I like Wendell Carter. The problem with him has been availability. It seems like it's just always something. And then he's not your traditional rim protector, right? Like he's kind of almost like a Larry Nance. I think he's probably a little bigger than Larry, but he's similar in that way. The shooting comes and goes a little bit, but in theory, he has been able to step out and space it a little bit. I just don't know. Like my biggest issue with Wendell Carter is I don't know if does he actually make you better? Like what does he do that says like, oh, that was a smart deal for us to go do. He's going to do X, Y, and Z that we don't currently have today, right? Like, is he going to provide leadership? No, not really. Availability? Yeah, maybe not. I mean, historically, no. Is he a stopper? Yeah, he's an okay. He's kind of a do-it-all. That's my biggest issue with Wendell Carter. Like if JV was hurt or something, or we were in a different situation, sure. I just don't know I don't know where he plugs in where I tell myself like, oh, we really got better. That's my biggest issue with Wendell Carter. I think he's a good player. I just don't know where he fits.
I think to kind of to Ross's point, when you talk about the Wendell Carter Juniors of the world, I think you're talking more so about an upgrade for Larry versus an upgrade for JV. I think you're talking about a co-starter type guy, potentially closing. Shout out to Nola Sports Burner. Potentially closing five for JV, right? Because you look at Wendell Carter Jr., you're not going to trust him to start during the season and even to guard some of the bigger bigs in the league, back to the basket bigs in the league. Also, you're not going to trust Larry Nance to start at the five. So I think when you talk about a Wendell Carter Jr., you're really talking about an upgrade for Larry. If I were Griff, my thing would be to address the backup five position. And because you can get a backup five essentially off the street. Just go get Biombo. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just get him, play him spot minutes off the street in that backup five position, matchup dependent, right? You got an open roster spot. You can move off of couple of the guys you got now and create that roster spot. But I think ultimately you have to say goodbye to Larry. I think that's really what it boils down to. That makes the most sense across the board. You can go, let's say Buddy Hield, who's not a good defender, but to Ross's point, Dyson, who is a great defender, he didn't matter much against Kyrie. Sometimes
who cares? Like,
yeah, who cares?
You're
right?
literally not getting him for that role. You're getting him for the opposite. Like not being sarcastic. Like, you're actually would be trading for him for the exact opposite of defense. Like, I don't need another
what
defender.
He does right now.
Yeah.
But I think you package Larry's salary up, man, with the Kyra or with potentially a Dyson and some picks, and I think you go get you that burner off the bench type of guy, and you address the backup five through free agency. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's plenty of journeyman bigs out there. You got to be Biombo. You got what's my man? I don't call him crazy. The guy with the problems. Yeah, you got dudes like that. Like, you got like dudes like that who just shit. You got good minutes out of Emeka Okafor. Those bigs who can give you like a good 10 minutes a game, they kind of easy to find. So you go get you a two-way guy out of the fucking G League or something. Just go get one of them dudes and invest in the scoring off the bench. And, I wouldn't even worry too much about the rim defense. But I think Larry has to be the person that goes. Larry's the one who's like, really is Brandon, but Larry the other one who's like really in the way as far as like salary.
Why y'all? Why y'all, man? Look, I mean, I want y'all right now to, use these last final minutes to practice obliterating that like button. If you didn't get your practice in early in the show, right now is a good time to do it. But we'll see you guys Wednesday. Appreciate everyone that pulled up in the comments as always, showing love and support. Be on the lookout for a lot of the content that we have coming out between this show and our other, our chat.
Jonathan Isaac would be incredible. Jonathan Isaac would be incredible.
He still playing?
Like, yeah, I mean, for now,
All right, man. So look, man, we're gonna get out here with a word from Birdsall Law Firm, and then we got 5 seconds with Lito Ross.
This podcast is presented by the Birdsall Law Firm, the official injury lawyers of Propels Talk. Birdsall Law Firm is a family practice that has been a staple in the greater New Orleans area since 1963. Specializing in automobile accidents and slip and falls for the past 60 years, you can trust the Birdsall Law Firm to handle your claim professionally while treating you like family in the process. The Birdsall Law Firm is located at 918 Poydras Street near the Superdome. Give them a call today at 504-523-5413 or message them on Instagram if you or someone you know has been involved in an accident. Be sure to mention Boot Crew Media sent you to get your free consultation today. Once again, you can reach them at 504-523-5413.
Shout out to 504 boy there. Lito Ross, floor is yours, brother.
Yeah, it's like my daddy always said, a fiend gonna be a fiend. Can't change no fiends, I guess. Basketball is a narcotic, and some of y'all got a bad bag of it. Sometimes drugs make you look smart in spurts. Other times, well, listen, we can't all be good looking. Pray for good health. Good night.
Ooh, that boy's in the Jerry Springer bag.
Till next time, y'all.